Hi and welcome. Today I want to do something a little bit different. I want to talk about the blues and I want to talk about one of the great blues players of modern times who's been inspired by many of the greats. Okay, it is Joe Bonamassa. He's really brilliant and I watched one of his videos the other day and he shared many pearls of wisdom. I'm going to take some of those quotes, extract them from that video about what Joe says and help you understand them and use them and apply them and my thoughts on what he says as well. He's a great player, but the thing is what he is teaching and sharing there applicable to everyone? Now, if you're a casual player, if you're not a hardcore blues fan, do you want to learn all the stuff that he's going to say, or do you not? Okay, is there a better way? Is Joe's way the only way? These are questions we're going to ask. So the first quote then is this: to get good at the blues, Joe Bonamassa says, learn the entire fingerboard. Okay, basically he's talking about learning all the frets, all the notes, being able to play the pentatonic everywhere. Okay, is that necessary for everyone? Well, you know what? It's blinking hard work being able to do that, okay? So if we was to do that, learn the minor pentatonic everywhere, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work. There are easier ways you could do this sort of thing, but learning typical minor pentatonic shapes like 5 different positions, 2 octaves can be a lot of hard work. For instance, you used to just do it in 1 octave, that could help. That's just 1 octave of the G minor pentatonic scale, played in different positions. I'm not really having to overthink about that. If I was to learn like this sort of thing, and then try and move that around the fretboard and learn that in 5 positions, it's just hard work. I don't actually do that. I just prefer to do a simpler way of learning the fretboard where I just learn a lot of the time with blues scales. I will learn the big box shape like I just did there, but then I'll learn little fragments, okay, that allow me to unlock the fretboard a bit more. Like for instance, I like to learn the scale up and down 1 string. I like to learn a low octave, a high octave, and maybe a few in between. But the thing is, a lot of people will tell you you've got to learn all the scales in different positions, but you don't always need to. Now there's a scale of relativity, to excuse my pun, okay, but what I mean by that is, okay, when you're learning scales, if you're like a really casual player and you like to do a lot of finger picking, a lot of strumming, a lot of just fun stuff and play songs, and you only dabble in the blues, then just learning all the fingerboard positions for a scale is going to be overkill. Just learn 1 and build from there very gradually. Okay, if you're a hardcore lead player, you really love this sort of sound, yes, you will want to do a bit more, okay? But it really does depend on where you're at and your goals. So I think always keep that in mind. A lot of great players won't tell you that. They'll just tell it you from their point of view. But their point of view isn't necessarily where you want to be. If you're like most of my students, 99% of them have no intention of being amazing world famous guitarists. They're like learning a little later on in life as adults. They want to play purely for themselves and to have a lot of fun and not have to put in all the graft, okay? Because there does come a point where you learn so much, it just becomes graft, trying to keep it all in your head. The old brain and the grey matter does forget stuff, okay? And if you're not playing for hours a day, and if you're not jamming with others, and you're not really pushing yourself ridiculously, then it can be easy to forget the stuff. So you want to learn just enough for you, and maybe just a little bit more just to push you, okay? Simple advice, but it's something I don't see many people talk about. Right, the next bit I want to talk about that Joe says is this. He talks about playing the same lick, the same idea in 3 different positions because it gives you a different launching pad points, which is a really cool bit of advice. For instance, so if I take this lick and play it in 3 different positions, it sounds pretty cool and it gives me different points to work off as well as different octaves, okay? So it's this. So the lick then is this basically. I'll break it up into 2 halves. So what we've got then is 3 to 1 with a pull off on the A string, 3 to 1 on the low E, pull off. Okay, and then we got. Okay, so we did the pull offs, back to 3 on the low E. I'll just do that to start with. And then finish it off with 1 3 on the low E, 1 3 on the A. So you got 2 halves of the lick. Okay, just to recap, 3 1 on the A, 3 1 on the low E, 3 on the low E, and then 1 3 on the low E, 1 3 on the A. Now all I'm going to do is take that exact pattern of notes and I'm going to move it an octave higher, okay? So I'm going to start on the C note now, which is fret 5 of the G string. And play the exact same pattern of notes, okay? And it's an octave higher. Nothing's changed, the fingering's the same. Obviously they do it on different strings, but the fingers and everything's relative, everything's the same. Okay, then I'm going to play it again an octave higher on the C note on the high E string. And the pattern again, it's the same. But what that does, it gives you a couple of different options, okay? It gives you different octaves, so you're playing a low, medium and higher octave of the same idea, but then it gives you the launch pad, as Joe talks about, to play different stuff. You know, for instance, if you're down here, you might do something like that to follow it up. If you're playing it here in the middle octave, you might do something like that in the middle. That wasn't the greatest example, but you know what I mean. If you're going higher up here, you might finish it with something like that. So just playing in different places gives you different ideas, different options. It's quite an exciting thing to do. So that's something well worth thinking about. Taking the same licks, moving them around the fretboard. Definitely a really practical way of playing. The next pearl of wisdom Joe shared was, if you're thinking about it in real time, it's too late. What does he mean by that? Well, basically, if you're having to think about, like you're playing a bit of a solo or a bit of a lead, or even if you're just doing some rhythm stuff, you know, thinking, oh, I'm going to do something cool in a minute, but I've got no idea what I'm going to do, then you're going to be stuck, okay? You need to have set ideas, I find, in advance. You know, for instance, if I was just jamming the shuffle, and I wanted to do some sort of idea where I'll go into some lead idea straight after, I'm like, okay, what do I do? Okay, it's rubbish, you know? But if I have a set idea like this, I think I'm going to do this lick. Okay, so I'm going to switch between the shuffle and that. Then you go, okay, so I already got something I can use and I can bring it in. It's very simple, you know? It's just fret 5 of the D, 3, 5 of the G, with a bend, and then 3 of the G, 5 of the D. With vibrato, you know what I mean? But the idea there, the principle behind it is that I'm not just willy-nilly trying to just come up with stuff. I've got set ideas in mind, and I think all the great guitarists tend to have this. They have little bankers, little set routines or little things that they can call on, a little lick, a little signature move, whatever you want to call it, but there's always something that you can call on and rely on, okay? And you practice these things. You just get a few set ideas in your head, learn them from other people, learn them from me if you want, take some of my ideas, use them as bankers, and then when you feel like, okay, I want to play something, I want to improvise, I want to do something, I've got this in mind. And it's the same with the scale notes we talked about. So if you do want to learn all the fretboard, then you're going to have to learn it well, not have to think about it and, you know, apply it as well. Because the more you apply what you learn, the more it sticks as well. Okay, another really cool little quote he says is this: I don't know what I'm doing all the time, but I know when I want it to rub a little, and I know when I want it to be sweet. And that's a really cool little thing, because the first bit of that quote, even Joe Bonamassa doesn't know what he's doing all the time. You know what I mean? There's always that element of freedom, that 5 or 10% in his playing, where it's just like, who knows what's going to happen. And that's quite exciting. That's that improvisation, that creativity bit. But having the ability to go from sort of edgy to sweet, you know, is a nice thing to be able to do, that contrast. So much of music is about contrast. Edgy, sweet, and the blues is really good for that. So you can go really kind of like angular. You know, that contrast there. But that's a really cool idea, contrast. Okay, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little lesson, whatever you want to call it, that little analysis, that little bit of advice. But I hope it inspired you, it gave you some food for thought, because, you know, I agree with a lot of what Joe Bonamassa says, but do tailor it to your own experience, your own goals, and your own ability, okay? Because your ability will always grow, but, you know, your goals will change as well, okay? So just keep it all in mind. Today you might think, oh, I really want to do the blues, I really want to hammer it. But you got to be realistic, because, you know, in a few months, you're going to still be doing this sort of stuff. If not, just don't overwhelm yourself. Just go small, do little bits, do them really well, and build up from there, okay? I've got plenty of advice, plenty of workouts and stuff on my channel. They're really popular. A lot of people seem to really like them. You can check one out here. And most of all, hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more from me, go to fingerstyle101.com/free. Cheers. Bye-bye.